Hey, you guys remember that shitty Adam Sandler Halloween movie that I reviewed about 2 years ago called Hubie Halloween? Basically my first Halloween movie that I ever reviewed. This isn't as bad, but it's pretty close. Disney's Hocus Pocus 2. Why does this exist? Well, because they need something to shit out on Disney Plus in September. No, like I've said in my previous reviews, I'm behind on my reviews, so I had to kind of suffer through this one. I've got a few more September movies before I do a ranking, then I can do my October movies, like go see Amsterdam and all that other shit. So I'm playing catch up, so expect the next few days to have at least one review of one of these movies and maybe a rant with it, because there are a couple of rants I want to do as well. So, but I'm not here to talk about those. I'm here to talk about Hocus Pocus 2. This was ass. Now, Disney Plus has been known for shitting out, well, shit. Most of their original movies have been utter garbage, and this is definitely no exception. Like, some of the worst movies of the past couple years, like, ones that often make my top 10 worst movies of both 2020 and 2021 had Disney Plus releases on there. And just this year, they released probably my least favorite movie of all time, up there with movies like Zack Snyder's Justice League and Songbird, which was also 2020. Go check out my review with that to see me absolutely dead inside. But there was the 2021 Cheaper by the Dozen, which if you guys don't recall, I shut off after 1 minute. It was that bad. This one, I almost shut off about halfway through because I was so bored. It wasn't like it was outright insulting like Cheaper by the Dozen was, but it was boring as fuck. Oh my god, this is one of the most boring movies I've seen in a long while. The movie starts off already on shaky ground, as the first thing we see is one of the most cliche things one of the things I'm realizing is coming a bit cliche is opening credits while with a pan shot over a body of water somewhere. And to make it even more cliche, it has a bird fly through. Really shitty CGI bird, might I add. Yeah, I want to talk about that for a second. Disney Plus has not been, normally with their products, unless it's something out of the MCU or Star Wars, their live action properties, when they require special effects, are horrific. And this is no exception. Like, I bring this up, like, pretty much any time I review a Disney movie nowadays. It's Secret Society of Second-Born Royals. One of the worst Disney movies I've ever seen. It was one of the first Disney Plus releases I ever reviewed, and it was god-awful. The CGI was probably the worst I've ever seen. Like, it was Disney Channel CW level of bad, and even worse, actually, because this movie, it's not quite as bad when it comes to the effects, but all of the effects in this movie are trash. And again, I get, it's a streaming movie. It's not going to have the budget of freaking Avengers Endgame. I don't expect that. What I expect is still decent effects. And these aren't even that complicated of effects. This looks like a slightly high... No, not even slightly high budget. This looks like a fan film. I've seen fan films with better special effects than this. And those fan films are made off of, like, basic software that you can get for, like, $20. Like, the most basic effects. This one, they have all the money in the world, and they can't put together even a single good special effect. Like, the bird that keeps flying around is terrible. The cat is terrible. Every spell that's used is not only super artificial and looks super lazy, they're not complicated. Max Steel had more complicated visual effects than this movie. And yeah, it had better effects. I'm assuming I don't even think it had a higher budget. I'm guaranteeing this one probably had a higher budget. And it looks so much worse. And the effects are somehow less complicated than Max Steel, which had like basic energy effects and a tornado monster. And that was about the extent of its effects. This movie, it has like different spells and everything, but every single time it's used, it's like the most basic thing. Like it's a blast of lightning or something, or like this really shitty looking shield that looks even worse than Sue Storm's shield from Thor Stick. Like, imagine that, but it's like very transparent and only slightly blue. Imagine that. It's hard to explain. But there's other bad things in this movie. Like, for example, the script is atrocious. Every line of dialogue is cringeworthy. There are a couple of moments that I thought were a little funny, but not. There was maybe 3 moments I got a light, half-hearted pity chuckle out of me, I guess. Every other joke, I facepalmed like this. I facepalmed like this, or I groaned, or I rolled my eyes, or something. And there were a couple of musical numbers that I just kind of skipped through. That's something else I want to point out. I didn't shut the... Like I said, I almost shut this off about halfway through. Like, I shut it off for maybe... Same thing happened with Marmaduke. I shut it off, like, 10 minutes later, like, no, I gotta power through. And I did. But what I started doing... And I've been doing this earlier, too. I started, like, kind of, like, fast-forwarding through some scenes. I was watching this on my phone... So I was kind of, like, rapidly tapping the 10-second skip button constantly. Because I'm like, okay, let's just move on. Because a lot of these scenes are just bad joke after bad joke, and they don't accomplish a fucking thing. Like, the stakes in this movie are super high, I guess. Like, these witches are trying to become all-powerful. But it always feels like there's no hurry, there's no tension, there's nothing. There's even a subplot about the mayor of Salem now being a descendant of the Reverend who basically hated them and, like, expelled them from Salem, or banished them from Salem. And they go after him trying to kill him, but after they're kind of, like, thwarted by the teenagers... Well, like, I don't remember salt being used as a shield against magic in the original. I haven't seen the original in years because I don't like it. I get that it's a cult classic nowadays. I don't like it still. Like, I like some cult classic movies like Diary of a Wimpy Kid or Tron Legacy, but not this. Not Hocus Pocus and not Black Cauldron or any of those. So I get that the original's a cult classic, but I have no interest in ever watching it again. But back to my original point, like, they're kind of thwarted, but then once they escape, they stop pursuing him. Like, he doesn't show up again. Like, and that's maybe, like, with a half hour left of the movie, not including credits, is the last time we see him. One of their goals was to kill him, and they kind of ditched that, because he never shows up again. And I guess I'll get into the acting. It's pretty hit or miss. Honestly, the 3 teenage girls, like the main leads, I guess, well, 2 of them are leads. One is kind of a lead, but not really. She's kind of a side character. They're not bad. I think Cassie's boyfriend, Mike, is not a terrible actor, but I think I can blame the script and the direction more, because for some reason, this football player is a giant pussy for some reason. But he's not terrible. The guy who plays... the mayor/reverend is ridiculously over the top. And something else I forgot to mention, the opening scene where they're in 1693 Salem, these 3 girls who are playing the younger versions of the witches, they're not bad, but much like the rest of the people during that scene, they're inconsistent with how they talk. Like, they use, like, the old language like they do as adults, and everybody does. But not only does it sound really weird coming from American accents, but also the fact that it's inconsistent. Sometimes they use contractions, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they use words that were not used back then, like gonna, as in Gonna. Words like that were not used back then. It's inconsistent as hell. I can't get a grasp on what's going on. And I partook in a play back in high school, Afflicted Daughters of Salem, where I played Reverend Paris, so I know how these people are supposed to talk. And again, it's not like this. And again, all of the acting is over the top. The dude who plays the Reverend, man, I gotta give myself a little more credit for playing the Reverend, because what I gave myself, like, I tried to make my Reverend a little more intimidating and, like, a booming voice and everything. This guy I don't know what he's doing. He's over the top and not in the fun kind of way. And that describes quite a bit of the acting, too. It's over the top, not in a fun way. It's just obnoxious, especially in the opening scene. Especially when the spider gets loose. Oh my god, it wasn't even funny bad. It was ridiculous. And the 3 witches, they're over the top in a better way. but still not great. Like, these are good actresses. You could tell they're over the top because they're trying to be over the top in this one. Just like in the first one, it was kind of grating after a while. The dude who plays fucking what's his name? The dude who runs the shop, Gilbert. He's fine, I guess. Billy, the zombie guy, is the best character in this because he's at least a little funny. He's not in the movie for very long. I think he was actually my favorite character in the original, but he's not given a lot of screen time in this movie. I think that's it with the acting. And so, yeah, the acting's pretty hit and miss. There was maybe one good scene. Like, I think the ending, spoilers, I guess. This movie's been out for a week and a half now, so whatever. But the scene where the main witch obtains the ultimate power and her sisters get basically Thanos snapped, and she decides that she'd rather give up her power, or in this case, actually die to be with her sisters rather than have all this power without her sisters around. Like, she even says, my powers are nothing without my sisters. That was actually a decent scene. It was probably the only well-written scene in this entire movie. But yeah, the point still stands, it was a well-done scene, but it was probably the only scene that was done well. The three leads, while the actresses are fine, they're pretty bland. Like, the main lead is a witch because obviously, but there's no build-up to that. She just kind of happens upon her powers, and it's not, she hardly ever uses them. So, like, she happens upon them in the last, like, half hour. It's like, if you're gonna make this pretty big plot development, you need more time to actually develop it. Like, she's just all of a sudden, she becomes a Mary Sue in the last half of the movie, or in the last half hour or so, because she automatically just knows how to use her powers. And this doesn't make any sense. And, like, is there anything else? No, so, like I said, story, huge miss. Dialogue, huge miss. Acting, hit and miss. Effects, fuck no. Music is fine, I guess. I didn't particularly care for the two musical numbers. That was one of the points where I was kind of, like, fast-forwarding ahead, because I'm like, I don't care. Oh, I forgot. There's an end credit scene. Yes, really. I don't know if it's supposed to be setting up a sequel. It's a cat standing next to a box that's, like, candle number 2 or something, so it could be setting up a third movie. God knows I don't want to see a third movie. But I don't know what they're doing this. It's pretty shameless that they had an after-credit scene in fucking Hocus Pocus 2 to begin with. But yeah, this movie sucks. Don't watch it. Even if you have a Disney Plus subscription, don't watch it. Don't make them make a third movie. I don't want to see a third movie. Don't watch this movie. I'm giving Hocus Pocus 2 a D-. And that's only, it's like, this movie literally has any merit from some decent performances and one good scene. That is the only reason this movie escapes an F. So thank you all so much for watching. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And let me know what you guys thought of this movie if you saw it, or if you're not going to see it, tell me why. Like, obviously I recommend you don't see it, but yeah, I got other movies to catch up on, so I'll see you all then. Bye.